This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. So in yesterday's class, we were talking about mounting and we did temporary mount. So as I told you, that temporary mount will be automatically disconnected the moment you reboot the machine. So yesterday we created two partition SDA5, SDA6. SDA5 we mounted on test, SDA6 we mounted on test 2, right? But as soon as we reboot the machine, yesterday as my work is over, I rebooted, I shut down my machine, and today I started again. So in this scenario, you will find out that the mounting what you did yesterday will be lost, right? Let my machine be powered up and then I'll log in and show you. Okay, hopefully it is booted. So let me just log in into our machine. All right, let's check the status of mounting. So we'll run the command mount and grep for STA. So you see STA1 is there, STA2 is there, but there is no STA5 or no STA6. The reason is we did temporary mounting yesterday. So if this is the scenario, let us say I have 10 partitions and every time the system restart, if I had to do manual mounting, then it is going to be a very complex task for me because every time I have to remember that which partition will be mounted on which directory, right? And doing manual mounting every time the system restart will also become a tedious job. So what to do in this scenario is you can make a permanent mount. When you make a permanent mount, then automatically at the time of system booting, your partitions will get mounted on the directory that you want to mount, right? So this particular concept can be achieved by editing one very important file, which is called etc fstab. Fstab stands for File System Table. So if you want to make a partition permanent mount, then you have to go to etc fstab and you have to provide the detail that what is the name of the partition and on which directory you want to mount, etc. So there is a very common questions, guys, that is asked in interviews also, that how many entries are there in fstab or how many fields are there in fstab? What are those? So you need to edit this file by using VI editor or any other editor, and you have to put a detail in this fashion. You need to start by putting, first of all, the partition name that you are trying to mount. So it can be SDA5 or SDA6, whichever partition, dev SDA5 or dev SDA6. Then you have to give the mount point name or the directory that you want to use. Now make sure that whatever name you are mentioning over here, the path and name is correctly typed. If that directory does not exist and you have just given the name like that, it is not going to create the directory. It will throw errors. So you must create the directory either before entering the name in FS tab or after entering the name in FS tab. Then third field, you have to type that your partition is formatted with which file system. Now this field is important. You should not do mistakes over here. Suppose the partition is formatted with ext4, you have to type ext4. Suppose the partition is formatted by xfs, then you should type xfs over here. Now you should correctly give the file system. You should know or you should check first of all that this partition is formatted with which file system. Then the fourth option what we give over here is defaults, which is mount option. That means the partition should be mounted with which permission. So by default, a partition will be mounted with read and write access. That means if the partition is mounted, you can go into the partition, you can read the data inside it, and you can write it also. If you don't want this read write option, then you can remove defaults. And in place of defaults, you can simply type RO, read only. If you give read only, it would behave like CD-ROM. Like you can take the data from CD, but directly you cannot put the data inside it, right? So you can only read, but no writing activities will be allowed. But 99.9% we always leave it defaults, right? We always give read and write both access. Then fifth option over here is dumping. See, whenever system crashes, I told you that whenever system crashes, dump activity will be collected. Your system will collect a dump, that why system crash, what was the state of kernel and other thing. So whenever system crashes, do you like to collect the information about your partition status also? If yes, you have to keep it 1. 1 means you want to enable dumping. Or if you don't want dumping, then you can set it to 0. 0 means off. That means if the system crashes also for this particular partition, no dump will be collected, right? Dumping should only be enabled on important OS related partitions like root, boot, home, var, etc. Non-OS partitions, whatever we have created, like SDA5, SDA6, we don't need any dumping to be collected because it does not have any OS or OS related information to be worried about, right? Then the last option is check sequence or FSCK. See, there is a command file system check. If your partition or the file system is corrupted, you want to repair it, then we use FSCK, right? So would you like to check the health of your partition during boot? If you want to check the health of the partition and then mount it, then you can enable it. In fact, you can set the sequence. Like 1 means first priority. During boot, the partition that would be checked and mounted first, you can keep it 1. And 1 is always given to your root partition, right? And then the next partition that you want to check. 2 means second priority. Same way you can give 3 third priority, 4 fourth priority. So according to that order, first, second, third, fourth, the partitions will be checked and mounted. Again, if you don't want this feature, you don't want to check the partition during boot, then you can disable it by using 0. 0 means off. I don't want to check the partition's health during boot. 1, 2, 3, 4 will be the order. First is always given to root, then boot. Then if you want whatever other partitions you want to check. See, non-OS partitions like SDA5, SDA6, whatever you have created, you can check anytime you want manually. But OS partitions like root, boot, these are important. So if you want to check them, you can check it at the time of booting, right? So these are the 6 fields of FSTab. Field number 1, you have to give device name. Field number 2, the mount point. Field number 3, the type of file system with which these partitions are formatted. Field number 4, mount option, where the meaning of defaults is read and write access. Field number 5th, dumping at the time of kernel crash. Would you like to collect the dump of this partition or status of this partition? If yes, 1. If no, 0. Then the last option is during boot, would you like to check the health of the partition and then mount it? If yes, then you have to set the order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't want it, then you can simply give 0, right? So let us try to mount it. See, first of all, I would like to check my partitions are formatted with which file system. You can check it out by going with parted command, or you can check it out by using one more command, lsblk hyphen capital F, or sorry, small f. So here it will also tell you that SDA1 is using which file system, SDA2 which file system, SDA5 which file system, SDA6 which file system. So I came to know that SDA5 is using ext4 and SDA6 is using XFS. First of all, I'm going to put the information about SDA5. So let me go to FS tab. I'll say VIM etc FS tab. I wanted to go to this particular file, and in this file, I wanted to put the changes. So let me go to this file. See, I might be at the top of this particular file. So you need to jump to the last line by using Shift G, VI Editor Basics. So when you press Shift G, the cursor will be jumped to the last line. Now you can open the new line below for editing. You can use small o and it opens a new line below for editing. Now here we are going to start first by putting the device address, which is /dev SDA5. Single space between two fields is also enough, but if you use tab space, it looks better. So I'm using tab space. I press the tab key and big space I achieved. Now second field I have to put over here is mount point, and the directory what I created yesterday is test. I haven't deleted, so it is there. Then third field is type of file system. See, I have used ext file system here, so let me say ext4. Then again a tab space. I'll give mount option. What is the mount options I want? I want defaults as a mount option. Then I don't want any dumping to be done at the time of system fail, and space. Here I'm using single space. I'm not using tab space. So between these two fields, I'll use only single space. So and the checking of health during boot also I want to disable. So device name, mount point, type of file system, mount options read and write, no dumping to be collected at system failure, and do not check this partition's health during boot. So what I'll do, I'll say save and quit. Let me press escape, then colon, then WQ, then exclamation to save and quit forcefully. So what we did, we have updated the FS tab. We have added the entry in FS tab. Now, how can I check whether the entry I have given is working properly or not? One way of doing this test is reboot your machine and test it. But guys, it is not possible, especially on production environment, to reboot your machine for every small thing. Then how can we test it? To test whether it is working or not, you can use a command mount-a. When you run the command mount-a, it is going to read FS tab. it goes to FS tab and try to mount all the entries of FS tab. If a partition is already mounted, it will skip it. If any new entry is found, it will try to mount it. So as of now, if you say grep for SDA, you will find that SDA2 is there, SDA1 is there, but SDA5 is not there. Now when I run the command mount hyphen A, see, no error is printed. If there is a slightest mistake in the field, instead of mounting, it will throw error on the screen. Now, if you go with mount and grep for SDA, did you see that SDA5 is now connected to test, right? So if this command is working fine, that means the entry, whatever you have given, is correct and it is working. And every time the system restart, this is the way it is going to get automatically mounted. So if you have made any mistake, it would have thrown errors. So there are no errors available on the screen. That means all the entry, whatever we have given, is correct. Now let me go back again into FS tab, and this time I'm going to add the information about SDA6. So let me go to etc FS tab one more time. Let's open a new line below by using small o. This time I'm going to give information about SDA6. So I'll say dev SDA6, then tab space. I wanted to give the mount point address as test2, the directory to be used. Then the type of file system we have used here is XFS, right? Mount options, I again want the read write default option. Then I don't want any dumping space. I don't want it to be checked during boot. I'm giving it 0 and 0. If there is any issue, I'll check it manually. Now let me save and quit. We have given the entry in FS tab, but so far the partition is not yet mounted. To test the entries are proper or not, you can use a command mount hyphen A. Hyphen A stands for all. It goes to FS tab and try to mount all the entries given. If a partition is already mounted, it will skip it. If a partition entry is newly added, then it will get mounted. This is what happens during boot also. During boot, kernel will run mount-a command to mount all the entries of FSTab. Now when we say mount grep for SDA, you find that SDA6 is now connected to test2. So this is the way how we can make the entries in FSTab and make it possible to mount automatically during boot. All right. Now, there is one issue when we go for permanent mounting. We have used the simple names of the partitions, dev SDA5, dev SDA6, like that, right? Now that thing might create some issue. What issue? Let's understand. So the problem comes with FS tab entry. Suppose I have given the entry that dev SDA5 should automatically get mount on /a directory. Then dev SDA6 should get mount on /b directory. For example, I'll use some spaces for better understanding. Then dev SDA7 to be mounted on C directory. Let us say dev SDA8 to be mounted on D directory. Let's say that these are the stuff what I have given in FS tab file, right? 5 to be connected on A, 6 to be connected on B, 7 to be connected on C, and D to be connected on D. 8 to be connected on D. Now let us say that you had some requirement and you had to delete a partition from mid of the order. Like SDA5 is there. SDA5 comes in the middle of the order. Now, due to some reason, you had to remove SDA5. So you went into fdisk utility and you deleted SDA5. See guys, the moment you delete a partition from mid of the order, automatically the next partition will be renamed. As SDA5 was coming in the middle of the order, automatically to make or keep the order, SDA5 6 will be renamed to 5, 7 will be renamed to 6, and 8 will be renamed to 7. And guys, if this thing happen, if you delete a partition from middle of the order, as soon as you delete the partition, the next partition in the list will be renamed. 6 will become 5, 7 will become 6, and 8 will become 7. Now, in this scenario, if you have not updated fs tab entry, then everything will get mounted at wrong places. If your system get restarted, automatically everything will get mounted and it will get mounted at wrong places. SDA6 that was supposed to mount on B, but because now the name is 5, it will get mounted on A. SDS7 that was supposed to be mounted on C, but because of change name, it will get mount on B. SDA8 was supposed to get mount on D, but because of change in name, it will get mounted on C. Now, this is the problem you have to face. Then you have to unmount all the partitions and again mount it properly with your requirements. So always this is going to be challenge. If someone delete the partition from mid of the order, all the remaining partitions will be renamed, and that is always going to affect permanent mounting. So I don't want to always update fs tab whenever a partition is deleted from mid of the order. And why we are facing this issue? Because we are using user-friendly strings SDA5, SDA6, SDA7, which is getting changed. Instead of these names, if I can use something which is not changeable, or at least which is not changeable so easily, right? That would be better. So instead of using these simple names, you can use one more very important concept, guys. What is that? Let us say that this is your partition SDA5 or 6 or whatever. Now, as soon as you format this partition using ext or xfs file system, what the partition will do is on the partition, you will be having some blocks created. We call it as data blocks. Which blocks? Data blocks. So data blocks will store all your data, right? So what happens in this data blocks is your data will be stored. But out of all blocks, see, all blocks are called as data block. I've just written DB only in few blocks, but all blocks are called as data blocks. Out of all, the first block is called as super block. Why it is called as super block? Because it keeps the information about entire partition, entire file system. Total how many blocks are there, how many blocks are used, how many blocks are free, how many inodes are there, how many inodes are used, how many inodes are free. All that information is maintained by this super block, and this super block will have a unique user ID. We call it as UUID or block ID. Now UUID is unique, right? No two partition will have same UUID. Every partition will have a separate UUID, and this UUID is not easily changeable. Even if the name of the partition is changed, UUID is going to be same. So instead of using that names SDA 5, 6, 7, which are getting changed, if I use UUID for permanent mounting, will it be safe or not? Definitely. Even if the name is changed also, with the help of UUID, the current name will be known and current name will be mounted on the directory. So with this, the confusions or contradictions that was building can be removed. The possibility will be removed, right? Now let me show you that how can I find out what is the UUID related to each partition. See, to see all partitions and their UUID, you can use lsblk-f. You see here it is telling you name of the partition, what type of file system is used, and what is the UUID of each partition. Or individually, if you want to check, then we have a command blkid, block ID, for dev sda5. So it tells you what is the name of the partition, what is the UUID, what is the type of the file system, and also part UUID. So there are two things, UUID and part UUID. Please do not use part UUID because whenever the partition is changed, part UUID will also change. Currently it is 5. If the name changed, it may also become 04 at the end. So it is not dependable to use part UUID. We must prefer using UUID only. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that UUID. See guys, on Putty, if you want to copy anything, you just need to select it. Whatever you have selected is copied. And if you want to paste it, you need to use right click. Just do right click and you see it will be pasted. Or you can use shift insert. If you use shift insert, whatever is copied to clipboard will be pasted, right? So that's how you can copy. Just select anything and it will get copied. Now what I'm going to do here is for testing purpose, I copied that UUID. Let me go to etcfs tab. In etcfs tab, you see that we have, oh, I'm so sorry. Right, over here you can see that we have given SDA5 over here, the name. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that name, and in place of name, I'm going to paste the UUID of SDA5. Now over here, you see all the previous entries, what was there, like entry related to root or boot or swap, all of them, they are having what? UUID. Right? So it is highly recommended that we should also use UUIDs for mounting purposes, right? Instead of using the simple name. Now, even if the partition is, if the name is changed, with the help of this UUID, your mounting will find what is the current name. Suppose SDA6 has become 5, but UUID remains the same. So with that, it will find out what is the current name and that name will be connected to test. Instead of SDA6, SDA7 confusion, this IDs will mount proper current name to that directory. If the current name of the partition is SDA5, it is going to mount SDA5. If the current name is SDA6, it will mount SDA6 on test like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmount test directory. You see, I have unmounted it. Now, if you say mount grep for SDA, you see SDA5 is not yet mounted. Now, to test permanent mounting, I'll use the command mount hyphen a. Now you run mount and grep for SDA. See, with the help of UUID, first of all, it has found out what is the current name. That name associated with the ID is SDA5. So SDA5 got mounted on test. Suppose if the name has changed to 4, so 4 will get mounted on test like that. So even if the name of the partition changed, what is the current name of the partition? It will find it and that name will be mounted on your directory. So with that, even if the name is changed also, correct partition will be mounted on correct directory. Okay, all right. Now same thing we can do it with SDA 6 also. See, if we want to check that out, we'll say blkid slash dev SDA 6. This is the UUID. Let me copy it. I'll go to etcfs tab. Now over here we have the entry SDA 6. I'm going to remove it and let me paste it out the UUID, right? Let us save and quit. First of all, it might be mounted. Let me unmount. You see SDA6 is mounted on test2. Let me unmount it. I'll say umount test2. So you see it is not mounted. SDA5 is there but 6 is not there. To test the permanent mounting, you can say mount hyphen a. Now when I say mount hyphen a, no error. If I go with mount grep for SDA. Now you see SDA6 automatically got mounted on test2. So this is the way how we can add this UUID in FS tab to make sure that even if the name of the partition is changed in any scenario, it should not impact the mounting. Correct partition with correct name should be mounted on a directory. For that we can add entries in FS tab. So FS tab on one hand is very helpful and very useful thing. But on the other hand, if you do mistakes inside it, that is going to affect your booting. For example, many of the time it happens that people do mistakes in FS tab. Never take the entries of FS tab lightly. Always try to put perfect and proper entries. If you make mistakes in FS tab, next time when the system is booting, you'll see at the time of booting, your system will be halted. Now, if it is halted, then how to fix that issue, I'll show you. We'll see some troubleshooting now. And one more big problem what people does is, for example, you have deleted a partition. So people go to fdisk utility and they delete the partition. And once they delete the partition, they forgot to remove the entry from FS tab. So what happens? Physically, the partition is deleted, but the entry in FS tab is still there. So if system restart during next boot, the system will try to search SDA6. You have physically deleted the partition, but you kept the entry in FS tab. When there is no partition available, what it will mount? So it will waste the time, waste it, waste it, waste it, and suddenly it will halt and tell that I am not able to find this partition. Or there is a problem in your configuration, I cannot continue booting. So such silly mistake will always affect your booting. Okay, forget about you have deleted the partition and not removed the entry. Even if you do a simple mistake in FS tab, for example, if you go into FS tab and by mistake in place of file system, you have given some wrong entry, XFSS, something you have written by mistake. Now that is a mistake. If you just save and quit with such thing, let me reboot my machine. See guys, to shut down your machine, we have a command power off. And to reboot your machine, we have a command reboot. I intentionally put a wrong entry in FS tab and now I am rebooting my machine. See, observe it carefully. You may come across such errors a lot. The most common error why your booting will stop is a wrong entry in FS tab. So the system has started to boot. Let us wait and see that will it boot normally or at the time of booting it will halt and give you some message. Even while you doing practicals, guys, you may come across this situation. So whenever you get this error during boot, just do what I'm going to do to resolve that issue. Let's wait for it to see will it boot or will it halt. See, this is the error what you will be getting, right? It will stop and it will tell you that you have to go for maintenance mode or emergency mode. Right? So this emergency mode or maintenance mode is like safe mode, what we have in Windows, or repairing mode. Any problem, if it is there in your system, you can go into emergency mode or this maintenance mode and repair it. Now it says give root password to continue or press Ctrl D. Suppose if you press Ctrl D, again it will waste the time and bring you to same place. But this issue will never resolve. You reboot 100 times, 100 times your system will be stopped over here. And why we are getting this problem, guys? Because just a simple mistake what you have done in FS tab. So to resolve this issue, first of all, type root password. Like in my case, the root password is red hat. I'm giving the password red hat. Now, once you logged in, go to etc fs tab. In etc fs tab, find the entry which you have done mistake. Suppose the partition is deleted completely, then delete the total line, because if the partition is deleted and you leave the entry here, that is also a problem. It is always going to have issue with you. Right? So delete that entire line if the partition is deleted. Or if you have done any mistake in that line, then correct it. As soon as you correct the line, save and quit. Now just say exit. The moment you say exit, the system will now continue to boot. And if your issue is resolved, the system will continue to boot normally. If not, again it will put you back into maintenance mode. Right? So this is what the problem we face if we do mistakes in FS tab. So don't take FS tab lightly. It is going to affect your booting. All the entries of FS tab must be perfect. Not even close to perfect, it should be perfect. No mistake should be there. That's the way the best practice is. Whenever you have added an entry in FS tab, you should check it by mount-a. If there is any mistake, mount-a will definitely tell you that there is a problem. For example, let me check out the mounting status. See, SDA5 is mounted properly, SDA6 is also mounted properly. Let me unmount one of the partition. I'll say you mount test2, right? If I go to FS tab and if I do the same mistake one more time, something I did. Now, whenever you added an entry or made a change in FS tab, just run mount-a. You see, it will tell you that there is a problem in FS tab. So you should go back to FS tab and correct whatever mistake you have done, right? So no wrong entries should be kept in FS tab. All entries should be carefully typed, and even if you have deleted the partition, never forget to delete the related entries from FS tab. If the partition is deleted, entry is still there, that will also halt your booting. Or even if you have done any mistake in any of the field, the system will be halted at the time of booting. So unnecessarily, you have to go waste your time. You have to go into maintenance mode or emergency mode, whatever you call it, and check FS tab. Most of the time at the booting, if it is halting and asking you to go into maintenance mode, just give root password and check FS tab. In fact, one of our client, I have seen this issue. What they have done was they connected pen drive, and I don't know why there was a requirement. They made permanent entry in FS tab for the pen drive. I don't know who did that for them. Now, once it was done, see, pen drive is an external USB drive. Whenever there is a requirement, you connect and use it. So what happened is they connected that USB drive or pen drive and they made a permanent mount. Now, maybe some days after, people removed that pen drive that it is not required. Now, pen drive was removed, but the entry was there. And you know that production environments does not reboot so often. So maybe after removing of that pen drive, maybe a year later or 2 years later, to do some upgradation of their important application, they had to reboot the machine. So after upgrading the application, when they reboot the machine, the system was not booting. They tried lots and lots of things. But once that issue came to us, then we tried to check out where is the problem. We went into maintenance mode. We check FS tab entry. And then we found that there was a USB drive address which was given. When we inquired, they checked in data center that there was no USB drive connected to server. So that was the issue, right? So leaving entry in FS tab and removing the partition or related stuff will always create boot time issues like that. Okay, now let us try to discuss one more command line, guys, to make partitions. Then I'll show you one more troubleshooting, what we can come across. See, as I told you that there are two commands to check the partitions, fdisk-l and also parted-l. So you can make partitions either via fdisk or you can make partitions with parted utility. I recommend fdisk, guys, because if you do mistake in fdisk, there is a chance that you can reverse back those changes. You can simply quit without saving and nothing will be affected. But when we go for parted is a real-time utility. Real-time does not mean the production environment utility. Real-time means whatever you are doing inside it will be applied at the same time. There is no scope of saving and quitting. As soon as you make the change is affected, right? So if you want to do partitions in SDA, for example, so you can say parted take me to dev SDA, same like fdisk. So when you say fdisk dev SDA, here you have to say parted dev SDA. Go to that particular partition, and over here it says that you are in parted utility. Type help to view list of command. So you can type help. It shows you all the commands that you can work with. For example, if you have added a new uh, hard disk and you want to go with MBR or GPT, then you can use these commands mklabel, mktable. So you can select whether to go with MBR or GPT format kind of thing. If you wanted to make a new partition, the command is mkpart. You have to give partition type. Partition type means whether it is primary, logical, extended, in case if it is MBR, right? And you have to select FS type also, file system. That means are you going to apply ext2, ext3, xfs, which file system? Then starting and ending size. What is that? We will check more, right? print to print the partition table, quit to quit, like that, rm to remove. Select the device. Suppose you have just told, for example, you just told parted. It opens the utility, right? But suppose you have two disks connected. Disk 1 is SDA, disk 2 is SDB, disk 3 is SDC. Now, if you want to do partition in SDA, then you can use select dev SDA. So it will say that, okay, now you are doing partitions in SDA. If you want to do partitions in SDB, you can say select SDB, like that, right? And if you run print, it will show you in that hard disk what are the partitions that you are having, right? And anytime you are confused, you can type help. Now, suppose particularly related to one command, you want to get help. For example, you have mk table. If you want to get help according to that, you can say help mk table. So it would tells you that what are the command or how you can use it. So you can say mk label or mk table label type. See, it is telling you can use all these types of label, but two are common: ms-dos for mbr and gpt for your gpt. But guys, parted is not an experimental concept. If you do anything here, it is going to take place immediately. There is no save and quit or quit without saving here. Whatever you are doing, immediately it is going to take place. So be very careful when you are using parted command. Same way, to create a partition, you can say help mkpart. So it tells you that what you can use mkpart part type. So if you are using mbr, then you have to mention primary, logical, extended. File system type, you have to mention ext4, ext2, ext3, xfs, all that. Start and end is the size what you have to give, right? Where to start, where to end, all that things you have to give properly. For example, let us say that I wanted to create a new partition, partition number 7. So you have to say mk part. I want to create a new partition as logical partition, right? And the type of file system I wanted to use. See, this is not really important to give the type of file system. Suppose I told that I'm going to put ext4. It is only for information purpose, guys. If you don't like, you can skip it. Don't give any file system type. You can skip to next value if you want. Or if you are sure that maybe you are going to put XFS file system, so you can mention. It is not going to format it. It is simply going to have information that this partition will have XFS. But this is not mandatory. Suppose I have given that the file system I'm going to put is XFS, but I format with ext4, possible. Automatically that entry will be updated. So this is optional. You want, you give the type of file system. You don't want, don't give it. Now over here, you have to observe here, like partition is ending at 1075 MB, next is starting at 1075. Going up to 17.2 GB, next is starting at 17.2 GB. Same way, your SDA6 is created on 22.5 GB. So I'll say start my partition from 22.5 GB. And where you want to end it. Suppose I want to create 500 MB partition. So I'll say end it on 23 GB. Now print the partition table and see that SDS7 is created, right? And the size is around 500 MB. So whatever partition you have created here, it got created. This is not what I can say save and quit utility. We created partition and the partition is created. Now if I say q quit, right, it say you should update fs tab entry. Okay, I'll update it later. Now if I say fdisk -l, you see that SDS7 is created. This is not save and quit kind of thing. Whatever you do in parted immediately take place. Suppose I want to delete the partition. So I'll again go to parted with respect to SDA. Now print the table. I have 7 partitions. So I'll say remove. Remove which partition? I'll say remove 7th partition. Now print the table and see your 7th partition is gone, right? If you say Q, quit, or just type the full word quit, you see it says you should update FS tab. Run fdisk-l or parted-l, you'll find that the 7th entry is gone. Yes, Hamse, what was your question?
Sorry, sir, I was trying to write something, so the
Okay, please have any questions, you can type that, no problem. So this is the way you can go into parted and you can do partitioning. But whatever partitions you are creating in parted will take effect immediately. So every command you are running in parted, you must type it carefully. Any mistake if you have done, it is going to impact immediately. If you have deleted important partitions, it is gone. If you have created a partition with more than the size what you thought, it is created immediately, right? And one more important concept, why we should learn parted. See, fdisk is a safe utility, we are working with that. Then why we should go with parted command? See, fdisk does not have any direct command line. Whenever you want to create partitions with fdisk, you have to go into fdisk utility, you have to say P for print, N for new, D for delete, like that. But there is no direct command. Suppose I wanted to create a partition using a script. Now, do you think your script when you write, it may go to fdisk, type P, type N, type D, type W. Can it do like that? No, we need a proper command line. So if you don't want to go into utility and create a partition, then parted also gives you a command line option to create partition. For example, I wanted to create a 7th partition directly from a command line. So you can say parted in dev sda hard disk mkpart make a partition, right? Whose type is what? The type I'm going to create is logical. And what file system you want to put inside it. Suppose I have not decided what partition file system to be given. You can leave it. Or just for namesake, you can say that, okay, I will put ext4. Where you want to start it, I'll say start on 22.5 GB. Where you want to end it, I want to end it on maybe 23.2 GB. And you see your partition is created. If you run parted-l, you see 7th partition is created with some size. Or you say fdisk-l, you see 7th partition is created. Not only created, but if you look out in proc partition, it is updated, right? So partition is created and it updated. Same way, let us say you want to delete this partition. Which partition? The 7th partition. From command line, you don't want to go into any utility. So you can say parted in the hard disk dev STA, remove 7th partition. Done. Now you run parted-l. Did you see your 7th partition is deleted? So if you want to directly create or delete a partition or modify the partition, then it can be done directly only by using parted command. So parted command can be run directly or it can be used as a utility. You can go into parted, right? And you can select your hard disk where you want to make the changes. Anytime you are confused, type help and find whatever commands you are trying to work with, right? So that's the way how you can work with parted utility. But remember, fdisk has a safety measure that if you have done a mistake, you can reverse those changes. But parted is a real-time command. At the same moment you run the command, it is going to get affected. So if you ask me what I use usually for creating partitions manually, if I have to do, I'll always go with fdisk because it is safe for me, right? But it's up to you. You can use parted utility, you can use fdisk utility. That is completely your choice. Okay, now one more troubleshooting what I was trying to talk about.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Hamid.
I just want to make a clarification because I was getting a bit confused about the parted. So if you said if you use parted, any thing you do is going to be created automatically.
Hmm.
Now, but the
Immediately. I did not told automatically, I told immediately it is going to take effect.
is going to take effect immediately.
Yeah.
Now, if you now try to, but that part you can still use it to make correction if you want to, or undo what you did earlier on, right? That's
See, correction means you have to delete the partition. Suppose you wanted to create a partition with 500 MB. By mistake, you have given 600 MB. Now to correct it, you have to delete it and recreate with smaller size. Or, for example, if I have fdisk utility, in fdisk utility, for example, let us say I say delete the partition. Which partition? Fourth partition. Now you see when fourth partition is deleted, it is extended. So inside extended, there was fifth partition, there was sixth partition. That also got deleted. But I have a chance here. If I say Q, quit without saving, you see, nothing will happen. Now this change will not be available in parted. If you delete, if you say RM fourth partition, the fourth partition is deleted immediately and fifth partition is also deleted, sixth is also deleted. Then you have to create fourth partition again, fifth partition again, sixth partition again. Creating partition is not a big deal. What would you do about data? If there is a data in fifth and sixth partition, that data will be lost, right? So that's what I was telling you, that through parted, whatever option you use, it will immediately make that change happen. There is no scope of quit without saving in parted. That's what I was telling.
all right. Thank you.
Great. So I was talking about some troubleshooting. Yeah. Let us say most of the time we face some issues while unmounting the partition. What is that issue related to unmounting? Let us say that we have SDA entries. Let me mount SDA6 also. Okay, so SDA5 is mounted on test directory. I will go to test directory, do ls. I see some data. That's great. Now suppose my work is over and I will try to unmount my partition. To unmount, I will use a command umount. Umount test. See, it says target is busy. Now, why we are facing this issue suddenly? Earlier also we unmounted it many times, but we never faced such issue. Why only now? This issue is getting arised. The problem is you are present in the same directory and you are trying to unmount it. If you run pwd present working directory, it says you are present in test directory. It's like you are sitting on the same branch of tree and you're trying to cut it down, right? So Linux will not allow you to do that. If you or someone else is sitting in this directory, it is going to warn you. It is going to tell you that someone is present in the directory, it is in use, I cannot unmount it. So if you are present in the directory, leave it. I'll run cd command to leave it, and you see you are not present in test directory anymore. Now if you run umount and test, any problem? No. So whenever you get that error, target busy, immediately check, am I present inside it? If yes, then leave the directory and try to unmount. This is one scenario. Now there might be one more scenario that you are not present in the directory, but someone else's is present. For example, I will log in as my user. You remember during installation class we created my user, so that user will be there. I will log in as my user as I know the password. Now who am I? My user. As my user, I will go into test2 directory. Right now, SDA6 is mounted on test2. So I went into test2's mount point, or SDA6 mount point, that is test2. I see some data. Not only I see, but I'll also try to edit one of the file. To make it more understandable, I'm going to change the colors. I'll go to colors option and unselect it. So white terminal belongs to root user and black terminal belongs to my user. Now, as a root, I don't really know who is inside test2. I simply run a command umount test2. See, I got the same error. Target is busy. So I will run pwd command. It says that you are not present inside that directory. Now, if I am not present inside the directory, who else would be there in the directory? I want to know that who is inside the directory. Maybe if I find out, I can communicate and I can tell that leave the directory, I have to unmount, right? To know who is sitting in your directory, you can check it by using a command called fuser. Find user. I want to find user with all current activities with username. In which directory? Test2. So it says that in test2 there are two activities going on, 6166 and 6244. See, these numbers are called as process ID. Every process, every activity is a process, and every process will have an ID. So it says that there are two processes going on and the owner of the process is my user. So I came to know that there is a fellow my user who is sitting in my directory and maybe doing two activities. But still I'm not convinced. I need little more detail that exactly what this guy is doing. Is he running cat command, cp command, parted command, fdes command, or what command? To know exactly the process name and other details, you can go with our next command, lsof, list open files in test2. Now this command will beautifully describe exactly what this user is doing. So it says that in this directory, there are two activities open. One is 6166, you see, the same number, process ID. 6244 again, and it belongs to my user. And the command what is associated with that process is bash and vim. So using bash the shell, user is working with vi editor command. So I came to know that this guy is doing some work, right? Now I have to unmount it. If I run umount command, it is not working. So what I'll do, I'll try to send a message to that user so that he might see that message and react to it immediately. Now, see, to send a message to any logged in user, if you just run who command, it tells you there are two users that are connected, root user and my user. So from root, I wanted to send a message to my user. So you can use a simple command called write. Write to whom? I'll say write to my user, right? What message would you like to send? I'll say hi there. We will or please leave test 2. Need to unmount it. Now press Control D. Control D normally we use in cat command. Same here. You can say Control D. Now go to my user's terminal. Did you see that there is a message drop out? It says, hi there, please leave test 2. Need to you mount it. Now if that user sees the message, then immediately he may leave the directory for you. But you send one message, you send two message, you send three message, number of messages you are sending, but the other fellow is not responding. Unmounting is really important for you. Or maybe let us say that user has just left the terminal open. Now he went for some meeting. Now the guy is not available and you are sending a message, no one is responding. Unmounting is important. Your application and other people are forcing that now do unmounting. This is the downtime for you. Unmount it, unmount it. So what we can do in that scenario? See, in this scenario, we have to take a harsh step. What is the harsh step? We need to forcefully remove the user from the directory. Now, how can I throw the user out of my directory forcefully? Now, this is little harsh command, guys. We need approval to run such commands. Such commands cannot be run on our own. So whoever is your higher authority, we should get approval from them. And if you have convinced them, then you can run this command fuser hyphen ck. I'm telling that kill all current activities going on in test 2. Just observe the black screen that is running behind the scene. When I hit enter, observe the black screen what will happen. Now when I hit enter, did you see the terminal got closed automatically? Now you run lsof. Is there anyone? Nobody is there in the directory. Now you try umount command, umount test2, and you see it got unmounted, right? So this is the way how you can uh, check what is going on in my directory, who is inside it, what they are doing. And if you have to forcefully throw people out of your directory, you can use fuser hyphen ck command that is going to forcefully send the people out of your directory. Their logins will be closed, right? So this is all about your partitions, permanent mountings, and some issues related to mountings and fstab entries related issues. In the next class, that would be 2 days later, right? As you know, for Indian students, it would be Tuesday, and for people from US, it would be Monday. So next class will be 2 days after. So guys, any questions you have till now, you can put your questions now, guys. I'll try to answer your questions.
So, sir, suppose you did some mistake in your command and you don't know what you did exactly. then you reboot your system. When you reboot your system, you see error. So how we can solve that problem?
See, if you have done a mistake, where you have done a mistake.
If I no, actually I don't know where exactly I did that mistake, and I reboot my system.
See, if you don't know where you have done a mistake, then how you can correct it. Suppose if you have done a mistake in FS tab, then you have an option mount-A. Here you can catch the problem if you have done, right? So if there is a problem mistake in your mounting, you can check it out over here. Now, if you say I have done a mistake, I don't know where found it, then nobody can find that mistake. When you feel that there is a mistake, suppose if you have done a mistake in FS tab, rebooting the machine will tell you that, okay, here is the problem. But can you reboot production environments just to test or to find out where is the mistake I have done? So at least you should have a hint that maybe you have done mistake in FS tab, then go with mount-A. Mount-A will tell if there is a mistake in FS tab. FS tab related entries you can always verify by using mount-A command. There might be lots of mistakes in the system you might do. So each and every mistake cannot be found out. Related partitions, the most common mistakes you might do is entries in FS tab. That can be verified by using mount-A. I told you, if you do any mistake in FS tab, run mount-A, it will tell you there is a problem.
Yeah, I know
For
that.
example, no, that's it.
Okay.
Uh, can I mount SDA5 or SDA6 with two directories or only one directory per partition?
Abdullah, I told that yesterday also. Again, I'll repeat it. You
Sorry, I
should
missed the class
use,
yesterday.
you missed it. Okay.
Yeah.
See, you should not mount two partitions on a single directory.
Okay.
It only leads to a confusion. Best practice is one-to-one. That means SDA5 test, SDA6 test 2. That will never have a confusion. So the best practice says you should never try to mount two partition on a single directory.
Okay. And related to parted command and fdisk command,
Mhm.
suppose I want to check SDA7 or SDA8 is created with which disk utility?
No, that is not possible
Not
because the
possible.
partition, see, you are going to fifth floor. Now you have to choice. You can go with stairs or lift, or you have two lifts. Now which lift you use is your choice. When people see you in fifth floor, they never comes to know that you are coming from lift number one or lift number two, like that. So ultimately, the partitions are getting created in hard disk. How you create is your choice. Now nobody can tell you is it done by fdisk or is it done by parted directly by seeing, but maybe there might be log files. If you view log files, you may find out that partitions might be created using this or that. Now, which is that log file? I'll check and tell you if there is any log file to find out that. Usually, if you go to var log messages, here you might see some uh, entries, events, what happened. Now, inside it, if I go with grep command, for example, oh, it's not having that. Okay, it's just telling mounting when happen, unmounting when
Okay.
happen. It is not exactly telling created by which partition utility.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I just saw this log that I did now. The question that Ansi was asking that he doesn't know if he made a mistake and he's not able to detect. Can't he get from the log or is not possible?
See, general logs are there, val log messages in which, but these log files may not point to a specific problem.
Okay.
Mount two directories to the single partition like test one, test two to SDS.
Your voice is not clear, Manoj.
Sorry.
It's
Oh,
too slow.
can we mount two directories into a single partition?
That is also possible, but what would be the use of it?
Uh,
Possible. It is
yeah,
possible, but there is no real usage of it. You
of
can
course,
definitely
but
do.
yeah, please.
Possibility is there, but usage is not, right? You can mount SDFI, but what happens in that? Whenever you are unmounting, each directory you have to go and unmount separately.
Just have a doubt.
Definitely. Possibility is there. There's no, even you can mount two partition on a single directory also, but again it is confusion. Same way, mounting a partition on two directory may also lead to confusion, because when you are unmounting each directory you have to go and unmounting. Possibilities are always there.
Why I'm asking, if there is a project, if we allocate one disk to that one partition to that project, we can create multiple folders into that and share to them, right? So that's the reason
Mhm.
I just have it out and
Yeah, possibility is definitely there, Manoj. You can do it, but requirement I haven't seen. But possibility is there. You can mount a partition on multiple directories. Same data will be reflected on both sides.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, well then guys, we'll stop the session here. Let's meet up 2 days after, right? And continue with our next session. Thank you very much, guys.